Persona 3 is a really great game, but as my girlfriend always says, the greatest things also have flaws. But enough about your mom. Let's talk about something that made me pull out my hair while playing this game.
Do you, by any chance, have feelings for... Come on, stop playing around. Yuki? Yuki! Yuki!
The best thing about boss fights in video games is that more often than not, a good boss fight will make you think. A good boss fight will be one where you're not just brute forcing your way through the enemy, but understanding the patterns, limitations of your own character, and how to use lateral thinking to solve the puzzle. A great example of a very well done boss fight is Mr. Freeze from Arkham City. See, until this point in the game, you have unlocked pretty much all the required skills and gadgets, and anything extra is just an added bonus. So how do you challenge a protagonist who is already at the upper end of his skill tree in the narrative and still make it a decent fight? What Arkham City did was pretty simple. They went with the approach of less is more. You don't need henchmen for a good fight, you don't need drawn out combat sections, you just need to make sure that the player has mastered all that they have seen so far in the game. In the Mr. Freeze boss fight in Arkham City, the only way to defeat Freeze is to use different stealth takedowns on him every time. See, Freeze is too smart, so you can't use the same moves on him again and again. And he learns from his mistakes, so you have to keep adapting to his moves and make sure you surprise him every time. At the same time, he is also too strong, so fighting him head on is not an option. This forces the player to think on their feet and move quick in order to defeat the enemy. The available number of moves keep dwindling down, so the only way to win is to make sure you know every method of stealth in the game. And to take an example from the Persona series itself, I would say the boss fight with Shadow Sai in Persona 5 is actually a very good boss fight. During this boss fight, every couple of turns, Sai will use the roulette and you'll have to gamble your HP in the game. But the thing is that the roulette is actually rigged, and the only way to win clearly is to figure out how she is cheating. And while it's only a small aspect of the fight and is scripted, it's still an interesting way to make turn-based fights into more of a puzzle. By giving players puzzles during a fight instead of making it a drawn-out slugfest of buffs, debuffs and Megiddos, it's not so much that the enemy is stronger than you, it's just that they have made these battle conditions unbearable, and that's the best kind of boss. Because then you are forced to get around the problem instead of forcing your way through it. And that brings us to the absolute pain of my existence, the goddamn lovers boss fight in Persona 3. This boss fight it's miserable. I hate this boss fight. In my opinion, this boss fight is anti-fun. It's not something that makes you think on your feet. It's not something that's clever or fun. It's just a slog, man. Every turn of the boss turns the game into pure agony in my opinion. Now, it is a bit better in Reload, don't get me wrong, but it is still so painful to get through. Let me paint you a horrific picture. You're just done with the Hierophant boss fight. You're feeling pretty good that you beat the boss fairly quick and your party has their theurgies charged up. Okay, so if there's any trouble, you can deal with it, right? Well, think again. You walk into the second boss fight and think, okay, I got this, this will be fun. And you bash the boss with 4 theurgies back to back. You think you're on the verge of victory. You still keep blasting them with debuffs and skills to chip away at their HP. And then, it doesn't matter. Why? The boss just recovers 1500 HP at once. Now that may not sound like a big number, but for early game bosses, around the time where the lovers boss fight takes place, that is a huge amount of HP. So all the hard work you put in the previous rounds where you're trying to chip away at his health, well, now it was all for nothing. It's all as worthless as the social links in Reload. I mean, seriously. Even 4 Golden gave you some perks for upping your social links. 5 Royal gave you some fantastic game-breaking perks when you finish your social links. Why didn't Reload have any incentive to finish their social links? I don't get it. Like, literally, aside from endgame personas, these social links have no incentive, nothing to add. Except for Maya. Her social link is incredibly funny. Also creepy. She was literally discussing grooming strategies with some rando she met in a video game chat. I mean, who would do such a thing? Anyway, getting back to lovers. After healing up 1500 HP at once, this guy starts farting at us and giving us all pink eye, making us all more susceptible to status ailments. He then proceeds to rizz up my entire party at once, except for me. So now I'm forced to use my D-charm items, few as they are, on Yukari, who can then use Patra on the party members to take off their rose-colored glasses one member at a time. Because wouldn't you know it, you don't get me Patra until after this fight. Neither do you get any full party D-charm items, because that would make a lot of sense. Now, in my opinion, it would be better if we got a few full party D-charms before this fight and had some filler fight that hints toward this fight. Like maybe having a floor boss who has the same moves as lovers, and that gives us a hint to what kind of a boss we might be facing. And if you use up your D-charm items on the floor boss, that's on you, but hey, at least the game gave you something to use, right? And the fact that you used it up is on you then. But in the game, the lovers boss fight comes out of nowhere with these miserable charms. So you have to use a whole turn just to de-charm 50% of your party, one to de-charm Yukari, one to de-charm another member of the party, and another de-charm item so you can at least have one party member free who can do some damage. You're gonna think, alright, I'm getting some hits in, I can still manage this, and then BAM! He hits you with a goddamn holy arrow, which not only is a guaranteed critical hit, but it also puts the charm back in. And that's not even mentioning if you have Mitsuru in your party, like I fucking did, he's gonna hit you with a fire-based skill and do a lot of damage to her because it's her weakness. Hell, if you play on Merciless like I did, there's a chance that he just takes her out of the fight every turn. Which means he gets a one more, which he will use for either a whole party charm with a sexy dance or another holy arrow, and the cycle of de-charming just continues. It's just de-charming, healing, reviving, de-charming, healing, reviving, without ever getting a chance to actually damage the opponent. And this continues for the whole fight, man. And hey, good fucking luck if your entire party got charmed, because you just have to sit there for a couple of turns until either Makoto's charm wears off or he dies while you do nothing but take damage. This boss is legitimately anti-fun, at least in my opinion. I'm not even mad at some points. I was just laughing when it happened first. The fact that he charmed the whole party and all I could do was watch. Watching my party beat the shit out of each other and kill each other was the funniest shit imaginable. Now you might be thinking that with so many hacks, maybe the ideal strategy would be to use his weaknesses to deal considerable damage whenever we do get a chance. You know, something to balance the broken scaling. Well, you can't. You know why? Because this goddamn piece of shit boss has no weaknesses. You know what this fight reminds me of? Okumura. It's the same as that goddamn fight from Persona 5. You have to face a boss before you get the skills and items you could use against said boss. Because through the rest of the game, you're not really gonna need Patra and Mipatra all that much. Neither will you need a lot of Patra gems. Now, I'm not saying it's a hard to win fight or it's even difficult. It's just a tedious fight. It's not something that's impossible to win. It's just a lot of work. You can try to brute force it, go to an old save and grind for more levels, understand a pattern and block sexy dance and hope that holy arrow doesn't ruin your life more than you already did. But it's just not fun for me. If you like this boss fight, that's great, man. I'm happy for you guys. Or maybe you think I'm a noob and I need to get good. And you know what? You might be right. I'm not some god of gaming. I play things casually and I like to have fun. And this fight is not fun, man. It's a tedious slog. Honestly, in my opinion, I think Okumura was a better fight than Lovers. Because at least with Okumura, there are things you can do. With Lovers, there's a good chance you don't even have a turn because your entire party is charmed. But regardless, what do you guys think? Do you think Lovers is a good boss fight? Or do you think it's a miserable time waster? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that YouTube stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. So yeah.